Good evening, everybody. You're watching the live Monica Makes It Happen Facebook show. Over 200 shows tonight. We're talking about skimming. So many of you have wanted to use your EBT cards to access your SNAP benefits. And, well, the balance is zero or hundreds of dollars not there. What's the explanation? When you try to get answers from the state, the city, the feds, anybody, they say they can't help. Well, guess what? We have Assemblymember Khaleel Anderson joining us. He's helping and he's looking into it and he's outraged. And when he reached out to us, we didn't know how big this story was. And now Sylvia Perez is joining us. She is one of the alleged victims from Utica, New York. Thank you for joining us live to talk about this big story that I think is getting bigger by the hour. Right, Assemblymember? It seems like every time there's an update, there's something going on. The latest, we're hearing 2,200 victims across the state. And now the state's also saying $730,000, almost $1 million, $250,000 that's lost. And these are families that need money to feed their families. I want you to take a listen to Miss Martinez from the Rockaways and her story, how she couldn't feed her grandchildren because of this. Take a look.
It's hard to look your grandchildren in the face and be like, there's no money to feed you.
50-year-old Lakeisha Martinez from the Rockaways says she went to buy snacks for her grandchildren at the grocery store with her EBT card, the prepaid debit cards for her SNAP benefits. She was shocked when she went to the register to pay and the balance was zero.
When I swiped the card to feed them, all of it was gone. So when we look back to see where it was at, it was in California. We don't live in California. I've never been to California.
The amount stolen from Martinez's SNAP card in July was $900. She uses that money to help support herself and her 4 grandchildren.
There's thousands of families who are experiencing this currently, and we're not giving that the light that it deserves.
Did you just say thousands?
Yeah, 2,200 so far.
New York State Assemblymember Khaleel Anderson of Far Rockaway says his office is getting dozens of calls just like Martinez's. He says his constituents are becoming victims of what's called skimming.
Each month, their benefits are loaded onto that card. Now, what we're seeing is that a number of different transactions, like what Ms. Martinez has experienced, that they don't recognize.
An OTDA spokesperson tells Pix 11 News, quote, OTDA takes seriously any report of benefit theft and continues to work closely with local, state, and federal authorities to provide any information they require that will help bring perpetrators to justice. And they offer this advice, quote, EBT card users should remain vigilant for this type of theft by reviewing their account for suspicious activity, regularly changing their PIN, and by closely inspecting all retailer terminals for signs of tampering before swiping their card. In the meantime, these benefits are a lifeline for low-income New Yorkers like Martinez. So far, she says no money has been reimbursed, and the loss is devastating for her family. Anderson says if you've experienced something similar to what these families have experienced, that you should reach out to the authorities immediately and reach out to his office.
Yeah, we're live now with our New York State Assemblymember Khaleel Anderson, who's really leading the way fighting for families, and Sylvia Perez from Utica, New York, who also lost close to $583 from her card, and she has 5 children. This is probably the most disgusting crime that I have ever heard of, and the families who are suffering and can't get answers. Assemblymember, starting with you, we have 1.6 million New Yorkers who count on these benefits. What did you start to see this, and why did you step in and see the sense of urgency that you do?
Yeah, thank you so much, Monica. So we started to hear from constituents here in the 31st Assembly District in the Rockaways this fall. And constituents had mentioned that they had issues with their cards and they had unrecognized transactions on their cards dating back to October, November. So we sprung into action with trying to gather those constituents together and figure out what resources are available to them to assist. Because what was happening was folks would file police reports or go to the police. Police would say go to HRA. HRA would say go to OTDA. And then OTDA would say that there's nothing that they can do. So there was a lot of bouncing around. There was a bureaucratic maze of sorts that impacted a number of our constituents throughout this process. And so it's been extremely painful because we're not talking about dollars and benefits. We're talking about lives and mouths that need to be fed. And they survive off of this benefit. It's called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for a reason, because it supplements millions of New Yorkers' nutrition. And so
well,
to ensure
Assembly
that
member, when we did Martinez's story, we were there with the new grandbaby. She said she could not feed her children that day, and so a family member had to help her. That's the difference between feeding your family and not. And Michelle Ruiz, who's watching live, we have someone watching live, and I always say if we just help one person, she says it happened to her family at Thanksgiving, $1,000. And wow. That's another thing, is that we're hearing it's not just a few dollars. It's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, just like Michelle Ruiz, who's joining us now. But how can this possibly happen? Because when I first heard about skimming, I thought about my credit card, and I thought about that. But these crooks are very sneaky, aren't they?
Very sneaky, Monica. And, it's not like the SNAP benefit cards have been brought into this century with additional protective measures. There's no microchip, there's no debit chips. So it's just a swipe of the card. And any store or establishment that you go into can actually have fake scanners or fraudulent scanners that don't actually the resources go to the actual establishment, but it goes to the skimmer. And so they set up those fraudulent machines that take your card information. And that is something that we've seen across the district from the dozens of complaints that we've gotten just within my assembly district.
Wow. So the best thing, look at all these comments that we're getting. JZ21 says, so messed up because it happened to her. They took it all as she was buying Thanksgiving dinner. Again, this is the holidays, and it's not you because it's coming from other states, other locations that you haven't been to. I know the Polo Grounds, the tenant president there was telling me she's hearing it's happening in Harlem. Sylvia, it's happening in Utica. She's going to tell us her story. Jamaica Blaze says skimming cards when there's no debit chip. Explaining that question, you just explained it so nicely there, that the protections are not there like a credit card. So then again, families are just left, just how do they get their money back? They can't. They're at this point, they can't get their money back. So you're trying to change that. So is Senator Gillibrand, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. But Sylvia, this happened to you, $500, and you said there was how much left on your card? 83 cents?
I had 83 cents left to my name on that card after I tried to make a purchase for my kids.
It's just, and your feeling at that point was, what am I going to do? You have 5 kids, and again, it's the flu season. You said a lot of them are not feeling well, and you have to buy juice. It's astounding to see this, and it's happening. What did you think? What was the first thought?
It plays with your sanity. It makes you feel like, okay, I did something wrong. It wasn't me. Like, it makes you feel like you're going crazy. And after the fact that the transactions don't show up right then and then, like it shows up a few days later because, it shows up a few days later. So even if you try to get ahead of it, you can't. It's already done. It's there. There's no going back from that.
That's so true. And it's Christina just said she lost 756. These are live comments. Okay. Here she is. On the 13th of December, I know Assembly members probably writing this down because he's taking notes of everybody. It has been shopped at North Carolina Walmart, again, out of state. Lisa La Rosa says it's despicable. That's a good word for it. Hopefully they can catch these scammers. And we know that there's a grocery store in your district, right, Assembly member, that has photos. So hopefully we can release that, and the NYPD will help us with this. But it just seems like at this point, what is the solution? What can you tell people to protect themselves, Assembly member?
See if there's any
Sorry, you cut out.
How do people protect themselves? What can they do? I know they can contact you, they can contact us, but how can they protect themselves?
Hold on. So I think the best way that we're advising people to protect themselves during this process is really just keep your card close to you, monitor your transactions, and if you see anything fishy, report it. We're encouraging people to report to the Department of Consumer Affairs. We're trying to figure out what ways people can report to the Attorney General's office. So we're looking at each avenue and venue which people can report, skimming appropriately. And we're asking people, to have that opportunity to circle back in that regard.
But you know what is amazing is that the response that you got when you asked for help, and you went to several different agencies, including the city, the state, and the NYPD, right? So here's Elle. What are people saying?
Yeah, we're getting so many comments right now. Drew Henson says, I really hope all of these families get their money back before Christmas. A lot of people are saying, Ellie says, for the woman in the package who was just trying to buy Christmas dinner for her grandkids, I really pray that she gets reimbursed. And then Sylvia, we had a question for you come up. Can you talk a little bit about what your process has been like so far with trying to get reimbursed for the money that was stolen?
So I called the state, and I was told that I needed to file a report with my local police department, and that I had to report the transactions. And I'm supposed to be called in 2 to 5 days to dispute those transactions. There is no guarantee that I will have the money back, but they still need to be disputed. So I have to wait for them to give me a call in order for me to dispute those charges.
And look, this has been going on so long. Look, Candy Rain says this has happened 2 years ago. So this has been happening for quite some time. Miss Lady YC says, yep, happened to me last year. HRA never gave it back to me. Nisa Nori says it happened to her recently. She lost all of her money. And it was from California, again, another state. Assembly member, what do you want to say?
It's consistent. Everything that we're hearing right now, even from Sylvia and from all of the people who are commenting, it's consistent. And part of the reason why people are not able to be reimbursed is because we have this archaic statute on the books that prevents states from reimbursing federal benefits that are lost. Reimbursing federal benefits that are lost and or stolen. And so we're going to be working on the federal level to figure out how to resolve this, but people need to eat right now. People need to be made whole right now. And that's something that we're going to be fighting on over the next couple of weeks, of just trying to figure out how to navigate constituents to support systems now that there is a universe of individuals that are coming forward. Because prior to us coming out in the daily news and with you, Monica, here on this platform, a lot of people were embarrassed to share this story, and rightfully so, because they thought that something might have went wrong on their behalf, or they're afraid to come forward. And so now that we are creating this platform for them, they're coming forward, and we have a body of individuals. So there will be things that we'll do in the next couple of weeks to really, really fight for these victims, because this will not be something that's just a one-day news cycle. We're going to continue to keep the fire
we're on it like sliced bread. You know that, Assembly member. I am with you every step of the way. And I know you're going to break news on our show tonight. Tomorrow, there is a big press conference with Senator Gillibrand. Tell me about that. So she is going to be pushing, just along with you. You have 20 other, I think, legislators as well that want to push for money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Monica. So yes, that is the breaking news. I will be joining United States Senator Kirsten Gillibrand tomorrow as she becomes the sponsor of a piece of legislation on the federal level that would repeal the statute that exists currently on the federal level to allow for reimbursements when benefits are lost. And that's really key and critical. It's important because that legislation will ensure not just folks here in the state of New York, but all across the nation are not subject to this stupid statute. When you have a bank account, FDIC, insured, all of these things are insured, and people can get help and support when their money's lost. The same should happen when their benefits are lost.
Assembly member, how fast can that act be put into place, and how fast can people get their money back if they're want?
If Congress does their job and moves, we still have a few more weeks left, I believe, that this Congress is in session. So they could move quickly on this, and we're going to push to that end. But as the new Congress comes in, I'm hopeful that we'll continue to push. I know we have a Republican majority in the House, but a Democratic Senate. But we're going to still keep pushing because a lot of these senators, members are from states that use SNAP benefits.
I am so glad that you're the reason why all of this is happening. So grateful to you. And Alicia, who's watching, says this is so sad. People don't understand when you have a family and how this affects people. Going back to you, Sylvia. I mean, last words. What do you want to say to someone who's watching? It happened to them. They feel like they're alone.
Do not feel like you're alone. Reach out to the proper authorities. Keep fighting. Keep going. Do not feel like because this happened to you that's just that. Take all the precautions you have to take. Change your PIN numbers. Be aware of your surroundings, and do not feel like a victim because this is not your fault. You didn't do this. You just fell into somebody else's game.
That's such good words to end on. And you know what? People are going to be watching where they put their cards now. You better believe people are going to be very vigilant now because of this. And then also changing your PIN numbers. Great idea. Be more vigilant and report it immediately. We are going to have right here on our Facebook and our social media platforms, the information. There's an email that you can also send to the state. And there's also a phone number to call with State Assemblymember Khaleel Anderson's office. They want your information. They want to hear from you. So then get on that list. And then, of course, reach out to us if you need help as well. You know how to reach out to us at monica@pix11.com. And don't forget to watch us every night, 4, 5, 5:55, 6:55, and 10 o'clock in the evening as well. We're making it happen. Thank you, guys.